Hey guys, welcome to Historical Mysteries, where we dig into the biggest puzzles of the past. Today, we're jumping into one of the most mind-blowing mysteries in aviation history, the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. Picture this, a huge Boeing 777, carrying 239 people, takes off from Kuala Lumpur on a normal flight to Beijing. Then, just 39 minutes later, it vanishes from radar without a single clue. No distress call, no warning, just gone. 4. Over a decade, the world has been searching for answers, chasing leads across oceans and coming up empty. But now, in 2025, new clues are popping up, giving us fresh hope to finally crack this case. What happened to that plane? Where is it hiding? Was it a pilot's plan, a hijacking, or something we can't even imagine? We're about to dive deep into the shocking details, the latest search updates, and some wild theories that'll keep you glued to your screen. So, buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications. Let's get going and unravel the mystery of MH370 together. The visuals will hit you with dramatic music, quick clips of a Boeing 777 soaring through the sky, radar screens fading to black, and endless ocean waves crashing, pulling you right into the heart of this unsolved puzzle. Alright, guys, let's start at the very beginning of this wild mystery, the moment that kicked off one of the biggest puzzles in aviation history. It's March 8, 2014, and Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 is getting ready to take off from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, headed for Beijing, China. This is a normal flight, nothing out of the ordinary. On board are 227 passengers, people from all walks of life, families, business travelers, even a few kids, plus 12 crew members, including 2 experienced pilots. The plane, a Boeing 777, is a huge, modern jet, one of the safest in the world. Everything seems fine as it rolls down the runway at 12:41 a.m., lifting off into the night sky. But just 39 minutes later, something unbelievable happens. The plane vanishes from radar over the South China Sea. No warning, no distress call, just silence. What happened? Why did it disappear? Let's dive into that day and piece together the clues that sparked the biggest aviation mystery ever. Picture the scene at Kuala Lumpur International Airport that night. It's a busy place, with planes coming and going, lights flashing, and people rushing to their gates. Flight MH370 is just one of many, loaded with passengers ready for a 6-hour trip to Beijing. The passengers are a mix of folks, Chinese families heading home, Malaysian business people, a couple of Australians on vacation, even a stunt double from a movie. The crew is led by Captain 𝐎𝐧𝐥𝐲, a 53-year-old pilot with over 18,000 hours of flying experience, and his co-pilot, Farik Abdul Hamid, a young but skilled 27-year-old. The plane is in top shape, with no known issues. As it takes off, air traffic control chats with the pilots, everything sounding normal. At 1:19 a.m., the co-pilot signs off with a casual, "Good night, Malaysian 370. That's the last anyone hears from them. Then, at 1:21 a.m., just 39 minutes after takeoff, the plane's transponder, a device that sends its location to radar, goes quiet. It's flying over the South China Sea, between Malaysia and Vietnam, when it drops off civilian radar screens. Air traffic controllers in Kuala Lumpur and Ho Chi Minh City notice it's gone and try to reach the plane. But there's no response. No emergency signal, no mayday, nothing. It's like the plane just stopped existing. At first, they think it might be a glitch or a communication mix-up. But as minutes pass, panic starts to set in. A plane this big doesn't just disappear. Imagine being an air traffic controller, staring at a blank screen where a jet with 239 people should be. What would you do? Here's where things get even weirder. Later, investigators found out the plane didn't just vanish, it changed course. Military radar, which works differently from civilian systems, picked up 𝐎𝐧𝐥𝐲 after it went silent. Instead of heading northeast to Beijing, the plane made a sharp turn west, flying back over Malaysia. It crossed the Malaysian Peninsula, passing over places like Penang, then headed northwest toward the Andaman Sea. Military radar tracked it until about 2:15 a.m., when it went out of range, heading south into the vast Indian Ocean. This wasn't a small detour, it was a complete U-turn, taking the plane thousands of miles off course. Why did it turn? Who was flying it? And why was there no word from the cockpit? Let's think about what this means. A Boeing 777 doesn't just turn itself. Someone, or something, had to make that happen. The transponder being turned off is a big clue too. That's not something that happens by accident, it's a manual switch in the cockpit. Did the pilots do it? Was someone else on board? Or was there a system failure we don't understand? The fact that there was no distress call makes it even stranger. If the plane was in trouble, like a fire or engine failure, you'd expect the pilots to radio for help. But it was just silence. Imagine being on a plane that just disappears like that. What would you think? Would you be scared, confused, hoping for a quick fix? It's chilling to picture those 239 people, unaware of what was happening. Investigators later pieced together more details about the flight's path. Using satellite data from a company called Inmarsat, they found that 𝐎𝐧𝐥𝐲 kept flying for hours after it left radar. The plane sent automatic handshakes to a satellite, little pings that showed it was still powered up. These pings helped map a rough path, showing the plane flew south into the Indian Ocean, possibly for 6 or 7 hours, until it ran out of fuel. That means it could have gone as far as 2,500 miles from where it was last seen. The Indian Ocean is massive, millions of square miles of deep, rough water. Finding a plane there is like looking for a needle in a haystack, but we'll get to the search in the next chapter. For now, let's focus on why this moment matters. The disappearance of 𝐎𝐧𝐥𝐲 wasn't just a news story, it became the biggest aviation mystery ever. Planes don't just vanish in the modern world. We have radar, satellites, and tech that tracks every move. Yet, somehow, this jet slipped through every net. The fact that it turned around, flew for hours, and left no clear sign of what happened sparked endless questions. Was it a pilot's decision? A hijacking? A mechanical failure? Or something no one's thought of? That silence from the cockpit is what haunts people. It's like the plane wanted to keep its secrets. Let's also think about the people on board. Those 239 passengers and crew weren't just numbers, they were real people with lives, dreams, and families waiting for them. Some were heading to Beijing for work, others for vacation. Some to see loved ones. Their families back home had no idea that a normal flight would turn into a global mystery. When the news broke that 𝐎𝐧𝐥𝐲 was missing, the world stopped and stared. Airports became scenes of chaos, with families waiting for updates that didn't come. That day, March 8, 2014, marked the start of a search, not just for a plane, but for answers to a puzzle that still hasn't been solved. To wrap up this part, the day 𝐎𝐧𝐥𝐲 vanished set off a chain of events that gripped the world. A normal flight took off, disappeared from radar, made a mysterious turn, and headed into the unknown. No distress call, no explanation, just a blank screen and a lot of questions. Why did it turn? What happened in those final hours? This moment is where the mystery began, and it's still pulling us in over a decade later. For visuals, we'll show a map tracing the flight path from Kuala Lumpur to the South China Sea, then the strange turn west and south. Clips of Kuala Lumpur Airport will set the scene, busy runways, planes in the night. Radar screens going blank will hit you with that eerie feeling of loss. Stick with us, because next we're diving into the massive search that followed. This story's just getting started. Alright, guys, let's dive into the next part of the MH370 mystery, the massive search that gripped the world. After Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 vanished on March 8, 2014, with 239 people on board, the world didn't just sit still. It launched the biggest, most expensive search in aviation history, costing over $150 million. Dozens of countries sent ships, planes, and high-tech gear to hunt for the missing Boeing 777 across vast oceans. Years later, a few pieces of debris, like a flapper from the plane's wing, washed up on faraway shores, proving it crashed in the Indian Ocean. But the main wreckage? Still nowhere to be found. Why is it so hard to find a giant plane? Let's explore the incredible effort, the heartbreak, and the clues that kept hope alive. How does a plane like this just vanish? What's your guess? Let's get into it. When MH370 disappeared, the first hours were chaos. Air traffic controllers realized the plane was gone when it stopped responding over the South China Sea. They alerted Malaysia, and soon, the world was watching. The search kicked off fast, focusing on the South China Sea, where the plane was last seen on civilian radar. Malaysia, China, Vietnam, and others sent ships and planes to comb the area. Helicopters buzzed over the water, and boats scanned the waves for any sign of wreckage, floating seats, luggage, anything. Imagine being on one of those ships, staring at the endless ocean, hoping to spot something that could explain what happened to 239 people. It was a race against time, because the longer you wait, the harder it is to find clues. But then, the search took a wild turn. Military radar showed MH370 didn't crash where everyone thought it had. Turned west, flown back over Malaysia, and headed into the Indian Ocean. This changed everything. The South China Sea is busy with ships and shallow waters, but the Indian Ocean? It's a monster, huge, deep, and one of the most remote places on Earth. Countries like Australia, India, and even the US joined in, sending more ships and planes. By late March 2014, the search shifted to a massive area west of Australia, based on satellite data from Inmarsat. Those handshakes we mentioned, automatic pings from the plane to a satellite, suggested it flew south. 4 hours, maybe 6 or 7, before crashing. That put it in a region called the Southern Indian Ocean, where the water can be 3 miles deep or more. Let's talk about how big this search was. Over 40 countries got involved at some point, making it a global effort. Australia took a lead role, coordinating searches from Perth, since the suspected crash site was closer to their coast. They used P-3 Orion planes to scan the ocean from the air, looking for debris. Ships dragged sonar equipment to map the seabed. Submarines and underwater drones, called AUVs, were sent to search the ocean floor. This wasn't just a few boats, it was a fleet, with high-tech gear that could see miles underwater. The search area was huge, covering tens of thousands of square miles at first. To put that in perspective, it's like trying to find a single car in an area the size of a small country. The cost? Over $150 million, making it the priciest aviation search ever. For months, the world held its breath. Families of the passengers waited for news, and every day brought hope and heartbreak. Early on, there were false alarms, like oil slicks or floating objects that turned out to be trash. Every time a lead fizzled out, it was a gut punch. Then, in July 2015, a big break came. On Réunion Island, a tiny speck in the Indian Ocean thousands of miles from the search area, a beachcomber found a flaperon, a piece of the plane's wing. Experts confirmed it was from MH370, matching its serial numbers. This was huge. It proved the plane went down in the Indian Ocean, not somewhere else. The flaperon was battered, showing it had been in the water for a long time, drifting across the ocean. After that, more debris started showing up, mostly on African coasts like Madagascar, Mauritius, and South Africa. Pieces like a wing flap, a chunk of the tail, and even a TV monitor from the plane's cabin washed ashore. Oceanographers studied currents and figured out these pieces likely drifted from the southern Indian Ocean, matching the satellite data. But here's the frustrating part, these were just small bits. The main wreckage, the fuselage, the black boxes, the answers to what happened, was still missing. Imagine finding a few puzzle pieces but not the whole picture. That's what this felt like. So, why is it so hard to find the plane? Let's break it down. The Indian Ocean is one of the toughest places to search. It's not just big, it's deep, with underwater mountains, trenches, and currents that can move wreckage miles away. The search area, called the Seventh Arcade, is based on the last satellite ping, but it's still thousands of square miles. The black boxes, which record flight data and cockpit voices, only ping for about 30 days, and by the time the search focused on the Indian Ocean, those signals were long gone. Plus, the ocean floor is rugged, with cliffs and valleys that can hide a plane. Picture trying to find a toy in a giant, dark, messy room. That's what this search was like. From 2014 to 2017, teams searched over 120,000 square kilometers of ocean floor, using sonar to map every inch. Australia, Malaysia, and China led the effort, but by January 2017, they called it off. They'd found nothing, no fuselage, no bodies, no black boxes. It was a tough call, especially for the families who wanted closure. The search wasn't just about finding a plane, it was about finding answers for 239 people who were lost. Stopping felt like giving up, but the ocean was too big, and the clues were too few. Let's think about the people behind this search. The crews worked in brutal conditions, rough seas, storms, and long hours staring at empty water. Scientists spent years analyzing data, from satellite pings to ocean currents. Families held on to hope, even when leads went cold. How does a giant plane just vanish? What's your guess? Was it in a spot too deep to find? Did currents sweep it away? Or is there something else we're missing? This search showed how hard it is to solve a mystery when the clues are scattered across an ocean. To wrap this up, the search for MH370 was a massive, global effort that cost millions and involved cutting-edge tech. Finding the flaperon and other debris proved the plane crashed in the Indian Ocean, but the main wreckage stayed hidden. The ocean's size, depth, and rough terrain made it a nightmare to search. By 2017, the official hunt stopped. But the mystery was far from over. This chapter leaves us with more questions than answers, but it sets the stage for what's next, new clues that could finally crack the case. For visuals, we'll show footage of search ships battling waves, underwater drones scanning the dark ocean floor, and debris like the flaperon washed up on rocky beaches. Stick with us, because the story of MH370 is about to take another turn. Alright, guys, we're now at the part of the MH370 mystery where hope starts to spark again. After years of dead ends, new clues in 2025 are bringing fresh energy to the search for Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. In 2024, Malaysia teamed up with Ocean Infinity, a high-tech marine robotics company, to restart the hunt for the missing Boeing 777. In February 2025, they kicked off a new search, scanning 15,000 square kilometers in the southern Indian Ocean, using cutting-edge tech and new data. The deal is bold: no find, no fee. Ocean Infinity gets $70 million only if they find the wreckage. But in April 2025, bad weather forced a pause, with plans to pick back up later. New studies on debris drift and radio signals are also pointing to a crash site near the 7th Arcade, a key area in the Indian Ocean. Could this finally be the breakthrough we've been waiting for? Are we close to finding MH370? What do you think they'll find? Let's dive into these new clues and see what's happening. Let's set the stage. After the massive search for MH370 ended in 2017 with no wreckage, the mystery felt stuck. Families of the 239 passengers and crew were left without answers, and the world wondered if we'd ever know the truth. But in 2024, things started to shift. Malaysia's government, under pressure from families and new hope from technology, teamed up with Ocean Infinity, a company known for finding lost ships and planes deep underwater. Ocean Infinity had tried searching for MH370 back in 2018 but came up empty. This time, they came back with better tools and a sharper plan. On December 20, 2024, Malaysia gave the green light in principle for a new search, and by February 25, 2025, Ocean Infinity's ship, the Armada 7806, was out in the southern Indian Ocean, ready to hunt. This new search is a big deal because it's focused and high-tech. The area they're scanning is 15,000 square kilometers, about the size of a small city like Sydney, along the 7th Arcade, a curved line in the Indian Ocean based on the plane's last satellite handshakes. These handshakes, sent automatically by the plane to an Inmarsat satellite, showed it flew south for hours after vanishing from radar. The 7th Arcade stretches from about 33 degrees south to 36 degrees south, and Ocean Infinity is zeroing in on a spot around 35 degrees south, near coordinates 35 degrees 36 minutes south 92 degrees 48 minutes east. Why this spot? New data from experts, including drift studies and satellite analysis, suggests this is the most likely crash site. The deal is also unique. Malaysia only pays $70 million if Ocean Infinity finds the wreckage. No wreckage, no payment. That's a lot of pressure, but it shows how confident they are. So, what's new about this search? Ocean Infinity has upgraded their tech since 2018. They're using a fleet of underwater robots, called Autonomous Underwater Vehicles, AUVs, that can dive up to 6,000 meters deep and work for 100 hours at a time. These robots scan the ocean floor with sonar and cameras, mapping every inch in detail. Unlike the old searches, where one vehicle might cover a small patch slowly, these robots work together, covering huge areas faster. They're like a team of underwater detectives, sweeping the seabed for clues. The data they collect gets pulled back to the ship, where experts stitch it together into detailed maps. Ocean Infinity's CEO, Oliver Plunkett, says their new tech makes this search more credible than past efforts. Another big clue comes from debris drift studies. Since 2015, when the flaperon, a piece of the plane's wing, was found on Réunion Island, scientists have been tracking where debris washes up. Pieces have shown up on coasts in Madagascar, Mauritius, and South Africa, and experts at Australia's CSIRO have studied ocean currents to figure out Where they started. Their 2017 drift study, updated with new data, points to a crash site near 35 degrees south on the 7th Arcade. Here's why: the southern Indian Ocean has tricky currents. Around 40-50 degrees S, water flows east, but around 20 degrees south, it flows west. The 7th Arcade sits in a messy, intermediate zone where currents swirl in all directions. By testing replicas of the flaperon and tracking real debris, scientists found that a crash near 35 degrees south matches where and when the debris appeared, like the flaperon hitting Réunion in July 2015, earlier than expected for other areas. This narrows the search to a spot that makes sense with the drift patterns. There's also buzz about radio signals, specifically weak signal propagation reporter, WHISPER, data. Some researchers, like Richard Godfrey, claim WHISPER, a system used by radio amateurs to send low-power signals, can track planes by detecting disturbances in radio waves. They argue MH370's path might have crossed these signals, helping pinpoint its final moments along the 7th Arcade. In 2024, the University of Liverpool started studying WSPR's potential for tracking planes, but it's controversial. Some experts doubt it's accurate enough, saying it's more guesswork than hard proof. Still, it's one more clue pushing the search toward that 35 degrees south area. But here's the catch: the search hit a snag. In April 2025, Ocean Infinity paused their work because of bad weather. The southern Indian Ocean is brutal, think huge waves, strong winds, and storms that make it hard to operate ships or robots. Malaysia's Transport Minister, Anthony Loke, said it's not the season for searching, but they plan to resume by the end of 2025 when conditions improve. This pause is frustrating, especially for families waiting for answers, but it shows how tough this mission is. The ocean floor in this area is no joke, rugged with underwater mountains, trenches, and steep slopes that can hide wreckage or mess with robots. Ocean Infinity's team is ready to tackle it, but nature gets the final say. Let's think about what this could mean. If Ocean Infinity finds the wreckage, it could be a game changer. The black boxes, flight data and cockpit voice recorders, might still be intact, holding clues to what happened in those final hours. Was it a pilot's choice, a mechanical failure, or something else? Finding the plane could bring closure to families who've waited over a decade. But if they don't find it, we're back to square one, with more questions than answers. Are we finally close to finding MH370? What do you think they'll find? A pile of wreckage, the black boxes, or just more ocean? Drop your thoughts in the comments. To wrap this up, the 2025 search is a big step forward. Ocean Infinity's high-tech robots are scanning 15,000 square kilometers near the 7th Arcade, backed by new drift studies and radio signal ideas. The $70 million, no find, no fee deal shows Malaysia's commitment, but the April pause reminds us how hard this is. This could be the breakthrough we've waited for, or another dead end. For visuals, we'll show animations of the search area with glowing lines for the 7th Arcade, Ocean Infinity ships battling stormy seas, and drift maps tracing debris from the crash site to African shores. Stick with us, because next we're diving into the wild theories about what happened to MH370. Alright, guys, we're now diving into the heart of the MH370 mystery, the theories about why this plane vanished. Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 disappeared on March 8, 2014, with 239 people on board, and over a decade later, we still don't know what happened. The plane turned off course, flew for hours into the Indian Ocean, and left no distress call. Was it the pilot? A hijacking? A mechanical failure? Or something wilder, like a government cover-up? Each theory is like a piece of a puzzle, but none fit perfectly yet. Which one sounds right to you? Pilot, hijack, or something else? Let's break down the main theories, look at the clues, and try to figure out what's going on. Get ready for some mind-bending ideas. Let's start with one of the most talked about theories: the pilot did it. Captain 𝐎𝐧𝐥𝐲, 53, was a veteran with over 18,000 hours of flying experience. He was well liked, with a solid record, but some investigators point to him as a suspect. Why? After the plane vanished, police searched his home and found a flight simulator he used for practice. On it, they discovered a deleted file showing a route eerily similar to MH370's path, a flight from Kuala Lumpur, turning west, then south into the Indian Ocean. That's a big red flag. Could 𝐬𝐧𝐥𝐲 have planned this? Some think he might have deliberately turned off the transponder, cut communications, and flown the plane to a remote spot, maybe as a tragic act. Friends and family say no way, he loved his job, shared plane videos on YouTube, and had no clear motive. But the simulator data keeps this theory alive. Imagine being in that cockpit, making a choice to turn a plane into the unknown. What would drive someone to do that? There's also the co-pilot, Farik Abdul Hamid, 27, who was newer but still skilled. Some wonder if he could have been involved, but there's even less evidence pointing to him. No strange simulator files, no red flags in his background. Still, the fact that the transponder was manually switched off, a cockpit action, makes people look at the pilots. If it was deliberate, it would have taken knowledge of the Boeing 777 systems. 𝐬𝐧𝐥𝐲 had that expertise, which is why he's the focus. But without a motive or a note, it's all guesswork. Picture the cockpit going silent, the plane turning west. Was it a planned act, or are we barking up the wrong tree? Next up is the hijacking theory. This one feels like it's straight out of a movie. MH370 had two passengers traveling on stolen passports, an Iranian man and a teenager, both seeking asylum in Europe. When investigators found this, alarms went off. Could they have been terrorists? The plane's sudden turn and radio silence fit a hijacking scenario, where someone forces the pilots to change course. But here's the problem: no terrorist group ever claimed responsibility, which is unusual. Groups like Al-Qaeda usually brag about attacks, but MH370 got nothing, not a whisper. Plus, the stolen passport guys were checked out and seemed to be fleeing for better lives, not planning a plot. Still, could someone else on board have taken control? There were 227 passengers, maybe one had skills or a weapon. Imagine the chaos if someone stormed the cockpit. Why no distress call, though? That's the sticking point. Another possibility is a mechanical failure or a fire. Boeing 777s are super safe, but nothing's perfect. What if something went wrong, like an electrical fire, a cargo issue, or a problem with the oxygen system? A fire could have knocked out communications, forcing the pilots to turn back toward Malaysia for an emergency landing. Maybe they passed out from smoke or low oxygen, and the plane kept flying on autopilot until it ran out of fuel. This explains the silence, no time to radio if you're fighting a crisis. But there's a catch: no debris showed burn marks, and the plane flew for hours, which doesn't scream sudden disaster. A slow failure, like a leak or system glitch, is possible, but why no distress signal? Picture the pilot scrambling to fix a problem as the plane drifts off course. Could they have been too busy to call for help? Then there's the wild card: conspiracy theories. Some say MH370 was taken by secret tech or a government plot. One idea is that the plane was remotely hacked, with someone controlling it from the ground. Boeing 777s have complex systems, but experts say hacking a plane like that is nearly impossible. Others think it was shot down, maybe it flew into restricted airspace, and a military jet took it out to avoid a threat. But no country has admitted to this, and debris in the Indian Ocean doesn't fit a missile strike. There's even talk of a cover-up, like the plane was carrying secret cargo or tech that governments didn't want found. These ideas are juicy, but there's no hard proof, just whispers on the internet. Still, they keep people wondering, is there something we're not being told? Let's think about what we know. The plane's transponder was turned off manually, and it flew for hours on a new path. That suggests someone was in control, at least at first. The lack of a distress call rules out a quick crash but fits a deliberate act or a slow failure. The debris, like the flaperon, shows it went down in the Indian Ocean, so it wasn't hidden in a secret base. Each theory has holes. The pilot theory lacks a motive, hijacking lacks a claim, mechanical failure lacks evidence of damage, and conspiracies lack proof. It's like a detective case with too many suspects and no smoking gun. Which theory sounds right to you? Pilot, hijack, or something totally out there? Drop your guess in the comments. What makes this so gripping is how each theory paints a different story. If it was the pilot, it's a personal tragedy, maybe a man at the end of his rope, taking 239 lives with him. If it was a hijack, it's a crime that slipped through the cracks. A mechanical failure would be a freak accident, showing even the best tech can fail. And conspiracies? They make you wonder if the truth is being buried. Imagine being a family member, hearing these ideas, not knowing what to believe. It's a roller coaster of hope and doubt. To wrap this up, the theories about MH370's disappearance are all over the map. The pilot theory points to 𝐬𝐧𝐥𝐲 simulator but lacks a clear reason. Hijacking fits the sudden turn but has no claim to back it up. Mechanical failure or fire could explain the silence, but debris doesn't fully support it. Conspiracy theories are tantalizing but shaky without evidence. What's the truth? We won't know until we find the wreckage, or maybe we'll never know. For visuals, we'll show reenactments of a tense cockpit, pilots flipping switches, or a shadowy figure entering. Animations will trace the plane's weird route, zigzagging over Malaysia to the Indian Ocean. Conspiracy graphics will flash cryptic symbols or secret bases to spark intrigue. Stick with us, because next we're diving into the human side of this mystery, the people who lost everything. Alright, guys, we've explored the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, the massive search, new clues in 2025, and the wild theories about what happened. But now, let's step away from the maps and tech to focus on the heart of this story, the people. The 239 souls on board MH370 weren't just a number, they were families, friends, dreamers, and doers, each with a life cut short. Their loved ones have been waiting over a decade for answers, holding on to pain and hope. Events like the 10th anniversary in 2024 showed the world their struggle. Malaysia Airlines took a huge hit, both in trust and business. Finding the plane might bring some closure, but can it ever heal the loss? This isn't just a mystery, it's a human story that hits hard. How would you feel waiting years for answers? Let's dive into the lives touched by MH370 and why this matters so much. Let's start with the 239 people on board. Flight MH370 was a mix of everyday folks and unique characters, all boarding a routine flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing on March 8, 2014. There were 227 passengers from 14 countries, plus 12 crew members. Among them were Chinese families heading home, Malaysian businesspeople, a group of artists returning from an exhibition, and even a stunt double who'd worked on big movies. There was a young couple on their honeymoon, excited for their future. A Canadian man was traveling to see his kids. Parents, grandparents, and kids as young as 2 were on board, each with plans and dreams. The crew included Captain 𝐎𝐧𝐥𝐲, a 53-year-old veteran pilot who loved flying, and Farik Abdul Hamid, a 27-year-old co-pilot with a bright career ahead. These were real people, laughing, chatting, maybe napping as the plane took off, unaware they'd never reach Beijing. When MH370 vanished, the impact on their families was devastating. Imagine getting a call that your loved one's plane is missing, no explanation, no trace. Families rushed to airports in Kuala Lumpur and Beijing, waiting for news. That didn't come. Days turned into weeks, then years. The uncertainty was crushing. Was the plane hijacked? Did it crash? Were their loved ones still out there somewhere? In the early days, Malaysian officials gave mixed messages, saying the plane might have landed safely, then admitting it likely crashed. This confusion made things worse, leaving families angry and lost. Picture sitting in a crowded airport, holding a photo of your mom or brother, hoping for a miracle but getting silence instead. Over the years, families banded together to keep the mystery alive. They formed groups like Voice 370, pushing for answers and new searches. The 10th anniversary in March 2024 was a powerful moment. In Kuala Lumpur, families gathered for a memorial, holding candles and sharing stories. Some cried, others spoke about their hope that new searches, like the one by Ocean Infinity in 2025, would finally bring closure. A Chinese woman named Grace Nathan, who lost her mother, became a voice for the families, saying, "We just want to know where they are." In Beijing, families held a quiet vigil, laying flowers and reading the names of all 239 people. These events showed the world their pain, 11 years of not knowing, of waking up every day wondering where their loved ones are. How would you feel waiting that long for answers? Share your thoughts in the comments. It's a heavy thing to imagine. Malaysia Airlines faced a storm of criticism after the disappearance. In 2014, the airline was already struggling financially, and MH370 made things worse. Families felt the airline didn't communicate well, leaving them in the dark about what was happening. Early on, Malaysia Airlines sent text messages to families saying the plane was lost, which felt cold and impersonal. The government and airline also faced heat for slow responses and conflicting reports. For example, officials first searched the South China Sea, only to learn later the plane had flown to the Indian Ocean. This delay frustrated everyone. The mystery hurt the airline's reputation, passenger numbers dropped, and they lost millions. By 2015, Malaysia Airlines was restructuring, laying off staff, and fighting to survive. Another tragedy, MH17 being shot down in 2014, didn't help. The airline became a symbol of this unsolved puzzle, carrying the weight of a disaster they couldn't explain. Let's talk about what closure means here. Finding MH370's wreckage, especially the black boxes, could tell us what happened. Was it a pilot's choice, a mechanical failure, or something else? The flight data recorder could show the plane's path and systems, while the cockpit voice recorder might capture the final moments. For families, this could answer the big question, why? Knowing the truth might ease the pain of not knowing, letting them say goodbye. But here's the tough part, can it ever heal the loss? Finding the plane won't bring back the 239 people. Families have spent over a decade grieving, holding memorials, and living with a hole in their lives. Some say closure is just a word, they'll always miss their loved ones. Imagine losing someone and never knowing where they went. Would finding the wreckage help you, or would the pain stay the same? This human side makes MH370 more than a mystery. It's not just about radar blips or debris on a beach, it's about the lives cut short and the families left behind. Every piece of news, like the flapper found in 2015 or the 2025 search, brings a mix of hope and hurt. Families cling to every update, praying for answers, but each dead end stings. The world watches, too, because we've all flown on planes, trusted pilots, and hoped for safe landings. MH370 shakes that trust, reminding us how fragile life can be. It's a story that connects us all, whether we're in Malaysia, China, or anywhere else. Let's think about the bigger picture. This tragedy shows how one event can ripple across the world. The passengers came from 14 countries, so the loss touched every continent. Families in China, Malaysia, Australia, and beyond still hold vigils, write letters to governments, and push for searches. The 2024 anniversary wasn't just a local event, it was global, with news outlets covering the family's fight. Malaysia Airlines' struggle also shows how a mystery can hurt a business, making people think twice about flying with them. And for aviation, MH370 changed things. Airlines now track planes better, and rules got stricter to prevent another vanishing act. To wrap this up, the human side of MH370 is what makes this mystery so powerful. The 239 people on board were parents, kids, artists, and dreamers, each with a story that ended too soon. Their families have waited over a decade, holding on to hope through memorials like the one in 2024. Malaysia Airlines took a hit, losing trust and money. Finding the plane could bring answers, but the loss will always hurt. This isn't just a puzzle, it's a human story that reminds us why we keep searching. For visuals, we'll show clips of candlelight vigils, families holding photos at memorials, and heartfelt interviews from the 10th anniversary. Stick with us for the conclusion, where we'll tie it all together and ask what's next for MH370. Alright, guys, we've reached the end of this incredible journey through one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history, the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. This puzzle has haunted us for over a decade, keeping us up at night with questions that don't have easy answers. On March 8, 2014, a plane carrying 239 people vanished without a trace, leaving behind a trail of clues that lead to more questions than answers. We've explored the day it disappeared, the massive global search that followed, the exciting new clues in 2025, the wild theories about what happened, and the human side, the families and lives forever changed. New searches, like Ocean Infinity's 2025 effort, give us hope, but the truth is still out there, hiding somewhere in the vast Indian Ocean. Was it the pilot's choice, a daring hijack, a mechanical failure, or something we can't even imagine? The search goes on, and every clue brings us a step closer to answers, especially for the families who've waited so long. This is why we keep digging into these mysteries, and we're so glad you're here with us. If you loved this story, smash that like button, share it with your friends, and drop a comment. What's your theory about MH370? Hit subscribe for more epic mysteries, and let's keep exploring together. This is why we love mysteries like this. They pull us in, make us think, and remind us that the world is full of secrets waiting to be uncovered. MH370 isn't just a case file, it's a story of human courage, loss, and the drive to keep looking, no matter how long it takes. We're so grateful you joined us to explore it. If this story grabbed you, hit that like button to let us know. Share it with your friends, maybe they've got a theory to add. And drop a comment, what do you think happened to MH370? Was it the pilot, a hijack, or something totally out there? We read every comment. And your ideas keep this channel buzzing. Thanks for being awesome explorers. You make historical mysteries special, so hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to catch our next big story. We're already working on another mystery that'll blow your mind. Any guesses what it is? Comment below, and let's keep the adventure going. For visuals, we'll show a montage of key moments: the plane taking off, search ships on stormy seas, debris on a beach, and families lighting candles. Ocean shots will remind you of the vast mystery, and our channel logo will wrap it up with a call to join us again. See you soon for more uncharted mysteries. Keep chasing the truth.